Hey, good morning. It's Captain Steve. Today we're going to be doing a dirty job. We're going to be cleaning out fuel tanks. Sailboats tend to accumulate a lot of junk in the fuel because we don't burn a lot of fuel, and so over time that stuff builds up and it gets nasty, and eventually your system gets clogged, and it's a pain when you're trying to go under a bridge or something like that. So we're going to be cleaning out a fuel tank today here on the Irwin. Let me show you what we have gotten done so far and let you know what we're going to do next. We've emptied fuel. This boat has two tanks, and so we've emptied fuel from one tank into the other tank and filled up a couple of our spare 5-gallon diesel fuel containers also with additional fuel. So our tank is fairly empty at this point in time. I can't pump any more out for some reason. Now it has a service hatch here, you can see on the top of it. This service hatch is attached with several bolts. Again, you want to make sure you mark everything as you're doing this. This is your incoming fuel, or fuel going from here out. I'm sorry, not incoming. This is the fuel that is coming out to your motor. This is the return fuel, that once any fuel that's not burned comes back into the system. This is your fill for outside, and then this is a vent. You can see it has multiple bolts all the way around it. So we're going to be taking off this hatch, getting down there with a shop vac next and sucking out all the muck and mud and stuff like that. And then we're going to be using a detergent solution to clean out the tank, and then we should be ready for new fuel afterwards. So I will keep you updated as we
we've got the
progress.
service hatch off, and I was able to suck out a little bit more. You can see that how nasty this is in here. That's the kind of stuff we're going to be getting off the side of the tank. Brushing does not get that off. If your fuel is being brushed, this stuff is still in that tank, and it's eventually going to fall off and contaminate. You can see the globs that are down here in the bottom of this tank. This stuff just like snot. It's just really disgusting. This tank has baffles on it. There's a baffle on this side and on this side over here, and so you kind of have to spray water back in there and detergent and mess with it, and then eventually get it back up. The bolts for this hatch again go right through this reinforced fiberglass piece here. That's where the bolts are attached to this. I know somebody will email and ask, so he's like, "Oh, Mr. Captain Steve, how'd you get that fuel pumped out of there?" Well, I jerry-rigged my little contraption here, and I'll show you what it is. It's a drill pump. This is fine for diesel. I know a little, oh, I can't use fuel. No. You can use fuel. It's diesel. All right. You could lay diesel out on the ground and let it on. Try to light it. It won't burn. Then I have one end of that hooked up to a hose. This was the incoming end of it, the suction end, going through the pump. You can see where it says in and out. And then I have a $6 automobile filter on this end to get any particulates out of it. And then as it exits off there and I'm putting fuel back into this tank, what that contraption is you're looking at is just an empty water bottle with a coffee filter shoved down the end of it. And as a final filtering measure to try to keep some of the junk out, I go ahead and stick that on there too and just let it kind of go in there. That way I don't have to worry about the hose falling out either. It's in one position. Everything's sitting on the floor, so nothing's moving. All I got to do is just pull the trigger, and it begins to do the suction. Little secret on these pumps though: make sure you understand where the rotation is. If you have it in the opposite direction of the rotation, it's not going to work. And he's like, "Oh, Mr. Captain Steve was an idiot. He didn't know what he was talking about." All right, so that's the pump, my friends. This is the deal here. I'm going to use some paper towels to really wipe this down and get that cleaned out as best I can. And then I am going to use some water and detergent and kind of try to wash it out and clean it up, and we're going to get all that junk out of there. So that's our next step. Okay, yesterday we cleaned the tank and then left it overnight. This morning I sprayed it down with a heavy-duty foaming degreaser just to get the last bits of everything out of there. And I've gone ahead and wiped it all down internally again. Again, the nice big access hatch really allows for my arm to go all the way down to the corners and get everything kind of scrubbed. Hand scrubbing, I think, is the best way to go about this. If you just rely on a pressure washer to do it, I don't know if you'll get it all. The next step is we're going to put the access hatch back on. I'm not going to go ahead and put my float in for my fuel sensor to this time. Maybe next time. We're going to go ahead and put our 3M adhesive around all of these bolt heads here. That's where the bolt actually screws into the plate underneath here. That's where it accesses that. And so as that does that, that will seal this whole edge up with everything that we've got on it. And we've gone ahead and cleaned the plate. We've cleaned all the attachments. So now we're just we're going to reassemble, then we're going to fill this tank with the fuel from the other tank and do the process again. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we've gone ahead and put the sealant around it and liberally place that there, covering all the bolt heads, wiping the underside of that to make sure that we're not going to get anything into the tank. And now we're going to go ahead and put the access panel back on and bolt it down. I think it's good to mention the tightening pattern. Just like tightening lugs on a car, I always start with one at the top, one at the bottom, one at one side, and the next. My next pattern is to go to the corners, and then once the corners are done, then I start filling in equal spaces as I move around the plate. Again, I use a wrench on this because these do not have to be super tight. If they get super tight, they might strip out the bolts underneath. So you just want to get them tight, but not incredibly tight. Hand tight is just fine. This plate is not going to pop off. The glue is going to hold it in place. It's going to be sealed as you tighten these bolts down. But just don't get crazy with it. Don't use I wouldn't use a power wrench or a torque gun or anything like that to get them down, just because you need to feel how tight they are and stop when they're tight enough. Okay, my bolts are all in place. I've gone ahead and put Teflon tape around all the fittings that I'm going to have threads on, and I've got new hose clamps ready to go. So we're going to reassemble all the systems, and again, you can see I've labeled them so I remember which hose goes to what, and then we'll have this all buttoned up and we'll start working on the next tank. Okay, so let's see all the nasties you got in here. Okay, you got all the stuff that's on the wall. That's the algae. It's right there. That stuff. Then you got this slimy, snot-like consistency of stuff that's down in here. That's really gross. So again, I use paper towels. Wipe it all out. Lots and lots of paper towels. Clean it all up. Get it out of there, and then use some degreaser. Clean it all out. Let it dry. Reseal it. That's the story. Okay, we have cleaned the tank out. This is tank number 2, and we've cleaned it out. And just a little tip on here: you don't have to get the seal completely clean. Just scrape off anything that's going to be scrapable, and then the rest of that can just be left. Again, we've vacuumed everything out. We've degreased the interior. It's looking so much better than it was. And so we're going to follow the same procedures that we did for tank number 1. We're going to put the 3M sealant around the edge of all these bolts. I like covering them kind of in the center, and then when the plate goes on, it scooshes out to the sides there, so you can probably see a little bit of the white sealant that gets pushed out, and then we'll put all of our fittings back on. But there we go. Alright, here's another little tip also. Make sure your bolts are all ready to go. When you put this 3M sealant down, you're only going to have about 5 to 8 minutes to work with it before it starts to thicken up and cure on you. So you need to have all your bolts ready. Make sure you've counted them. You got the same number of holes as the same number of bolts, and that all your washers are attached. And again, we're going to be using our torque wrench to not torque wrench, our adjustable wrench here to go ahead and tighten those down hand tight. They do not need to be super tight, and then you're ready to go. So that wraps it up for fuel tank cleaning. some of the things that you will need for this job. Again, the strategy I use is lots of paper towels. Each tank will take you two rolls of paper towels. Even after you've extracted 99.9% of the fuel, it'll still take you a lot to clean it out. It's nasty, but it's one of those nasty jobs that you could pay somebody to do, or you could do it yourself. And quite honestly, yeah, if you don't mind a little grime, you can do this yourself. Some of the tools that I've used, again, I think you saw the sockets. Most of these are 9/16 bolts that are in here. I must say this. Every boat is different, and access panels for your fuel tanks will be different. They won't be exactly like this one. This is an older boat, and everything is custom on these things. These are made specifically for that particular boat and particular fuel system. So if yours doesn't look exactly like mine, don't worry. It's all got basically the same components. When they build these fuel tanks, when they fiberglass them out, the interior metal bracket is fiberglassed into the tank itself. And then when they're done finishing the tank, they go ahead and drill and tap those bolt holes for it. That's how that's done. So if your tank is a little bit hard to get to and inside, then you may want to have an attachment to kind of get back in there to kind of clean it and scrub it a little bit. I've even seen people use handheld video cameras on like GoPros and stuff like that to kind of get back there and really look and see if they've gotten everything out of it. So lots of things you can do with this. All right. So again, thanks for joining me. Glad you're on board, and please subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe, and would love to hear from you. Take care now. Bye.